Suzy, if you will kindly reveal yourself, she is here with us, and we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of Q&A for anybody who has questions about what she talked about. Suzy, if you can just kind of say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's meeting and listening to my experience. Does anyone have any questions? I see some questions in the chat.
We've got questions in the chat. Yeah, I do want to give people a chance to ask questions out loud, and we'll go to the chat ones if we run out.
Sure.
Although a lot of times people just like to ask in chat anyway, so not hearing anything. All right, let's go to the chat. Anyone that you want to take first there?
Why don't we just go in order? Anthony asked if I maxed out my pre-tax investments. And Dan, as my advisor, you might have to help me out here a little bit. I I contribute at least the minimum like match, but I'm not really sure what you mean about maxing out.
You want me to jump in?
Sure.
Okay. So there's no, Anthony, there's no real connection between the two. There is no like condition where you would only do after-tax retirement contributions once you've maxed out pre-tax contributions. It is totally up to you how you want to allocate them. There are limits to how much can go in each one, but there's no conditionality where you would only be doing the one after the other had been fully done. Now, as another maybe a better maybe another question that we want to ask is, why was she doing after-tax investments as opposed to like Roth? So as Suzy said during the presentation, she didn't, have a ton of knowledge about the topics, so she was just doing something that seemed right. And when we, dug in and did a little audit of the situation, I determined pretty quickly that it was not the best arrangement. It was actually the worst arrangement, which is why she talked about having the tremendous $50,000 to $70,000 of benefit from what we did. For anyone who I keep seeing this on people, so this is not a Suzy thing. This is something that tons of people seem to be doing without realizing it. If you are putting money into your after-tax retirement bucket and just leaving it in after-tax, that is a huge mistake. You need to have it be converted into Roth. If you don't do that, you are getting the worst possible tax treatment. And if you do what we had Suzy do, you will get the best possible tax treatment. So hopefully that addresses the basic topic. Anything else you want to say on that, Suzy?
Nope.
So two answers to that. One, she was already doing after tax. I didn't have her start doing that. She already was doing that. But that separate from that idea, it is actually better. We've talked about this on some meetings, which may not have been in, and even if you were, tons of information. So I totally understand. People don't remember every detail. It's better to contribute to after tax and have it immediately convert to Roth because there's a higher contribution limit. You can put like roughly 70K. I don't remember the exact number, and it changes from year to year. So that's why I don't remember. But you can put roughly 70K into after tax and you can convert it all into Roth. But if you just put stuff straight into Roth, it's around 23K roughly that you can directly put into Roth. So you can put more in. And also there's additional flexibility on withdrawals. The money that you put in straight as Roth has a lot more restrictions on taking it out versus money you put in as after tax and then convert to Roth. That has like basically no restrictions on withdrawing those contributions.
So
Go ahead. That is
And-
that this organization has. It is
Right.
not. This is not the only organization in the world that has those qualities, but it is true that not many employers offer that. Yeah, I don't want to claim that what we say about this applies to every single employer. I couldn't possibly know the specific plan stipulations of every employer, but it's true here. And the general concept is going to be true everywhere, which is that after-tax contributions can be withdrawn without penalty. Now, whether the employer has additional restrictions or not, that's a separate topic. But after-tax contributions can be withdrawn without penalty. Roth contributions is a stickier subject. Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm
Sure.
guessing you have some experience with this. You sound like you have,
Yeah.
you know, speak from knowledge.
It's very
Wonderful.
unique.
Well, appreciate having you here, and
Yeah.
please, you are more than welcome to add your voice to the conversation anytime that you have anything that you feel we would benefit from hearing. Hear from you. Okay, other questions? Let's go to a chat since I'm not hearing anything out loud. Suzy, any question you want to take next? I think there was one about Walmart.
Yeah, so I did sign up for Walmart Plus grocery delivery, and Dan actually at the time they were having a special where it was, I think, half off for the membership, so I think I paid maybe $50.
Sounds right.
I have not tested whether it can be used by multiple people in other states, but I did a quick little Google search, and it says that you can have it delivered to other people in other states. I think there's like a PIN involved, a PIN number. And there might be kind of like a family sharing plan, but I have not had direct experience with sending or having Walmart Plus delivered to other addresses out of state, but I believe it's possible.
Yeah, I guess the question is basically kind of like Netflix. Can I share my account with other people who's in Arizona or wherever? Stuff like that. Yeah, I have not, I also have the delivery and I have not tested this myself either. I would just Google it. Yeah, there's probably, you know, people who tried doing this and they'll tell you whether it worked or not. But Susie mentioned like a pin, so that might be the answer right there.
And you
Uh,
can put in multiple addresses for shipping. I've
yeah.
just done it within, changed the addresses within Maryland, but I'm sure there's a way to do it out of state. So, good question.
Kim, your son lives in Maryland though, right? So,
No, he lives in Nashville now. He lived
oh, he's in
in
Nashville now.
when we
Thank you.
started it up, he was in Charleston. And
Okay.
and we both use it.
Okay, so Kim, I think what you're saying is like you have the final answer, right? That you can do it between states.
Yes, correct.
Okay, awesome. Kim comes into the rescue. Thank you. There was another question higher up. Oh, Courtney, also Courtney, how she confirmed her investment allocation was accurate. So this was a while ago, so I don't remember exactly, but I can tell you generally what I do is we just look at what she has, what fund she has, the split between equity and fixed income. And if it looks, like a fairly normal number, I tell them I have no problem with it because I don't get into telling people exactly what they should be putting their money into. I don't see that as my place. If I see something that seems totally crazy, like if she was all in cash or all in fixed income or 100% in equity, I would encourage that person I would give them kind of mainstream uh, resources, articles on the topic that kind of explain general, generally accepted, uh, maybe accept is not the word, generally practiced allocations, and, allow them to ultimately decide what they want to do. I don't ever tell anyone you should have this percent in this and this percent in that. Susie, do you recall if you were just in a life cycle fund or if you had specific funds?
Well, I will say that I have, the retirement plan, but I also have from previous employers, like another other accounts that I did not roll over. So there was that dynamic where I do have the retirement plan, but I also have, I think it's like Allegiance or something else. So there were multiple kind of funds that were involved, and I can't really recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I can't. I
It was
did with
Oswald.
several people, so. But whatever you had was not like anything that made me say, oh no.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I think my general just I wasn't very familiar with financial strategies. I had been part of Vanguard and they had, the self-tests like, you know, to auto manage your money. And then with the combination of like all the housing, expenses, I joined one of these meetings a year ago, and Dan made a great offer, and I just emailed him because I felt like being in my mid 30s at this point, I really need to start thinking about long term, and I really haven't prior to this like monitored um, on a granular level, like what I could optimize as far as savings. I felt like I was very good at long-term savings, but short-term savings, I felt like I needed to, maybe develop and learn more techniques in order to kind of balance out. Um, I felt like long-term savings, I was okay, but short-term, especially with the housing costs, that's why I reached out to Dan.
Yeah, Amelia, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'm not telling myself, oh, like, I need to like not eat out or not have some drinks while out. I'm just more aware of how the little, like the little savings can really amount to such a cost savings long term. So I still, will go out and, have a good time with friends, order food, order a drink, but I'm just more cognizant. Maybe I'll just order one drink instead of two, or, I usually like can't finish all of my meal at a restaurant, so I'll just bring it home and have it for, another meal for the next day. I think it's just more kind of a lifestyle change and just being more cognizant of what things cost when I'm going out to eat versus what it would cost me if I were to make that at home or have that same drink at home and realize that there's, a very large um, upscale in pricing, especially now with, you know, inflation and everything.
And one thing I will just jump in and add to that is just to be clear, because I want to say this and make sure there's no misunderstanding. I did not and would not tell Suzy, thou shalt not spend on this, or thou shalt not spend more than X dollars on this. All we do is just, as she said, you know, examine the situation so that she knows what is actually happening, as opposed to not really having a clear sense of, you know, how many dollars are being spent on this thing or that thing. And that way she can make her own decisions for herself with that knowledge. But I don't tell her what she must or must not spend on in any way.
And that's when it comes back to the, you know, the top 5 things that Dan mentioned. It really helped me prioritize what I spend money on, based off of, you know, what is important to me at this point in my life.
Any other questions for Suzy? Also, we're almost at the hour, so I did have plans to have another topic, but since we won't have time to really get into the other topic, we'll just spend about 5 more minutes doing Q&A and then wrap up. So what are the questions do people have? And I'm gonna check the chat. Suzy, is there any, let me ask you this, since it's been a little while since you actually created that presentation, can you speak to maybe developments of the recent weeks and months since you created that and how things have developed from the point where you mentioned them?
Sure. I guess I'll just back up a little bit. You know, during the pandemic, you know, ordering food for delivery kind of became, you know, almost kind of second nature to me, unfortunately. And then when, you know, restaurants and everything started opening up, I kind of had developed a habit of just using DoorDash or, you know, Uber Eats. And, you know, there's so many service fees and up pricing involved with that, that, you know, it was hard for me to just, it was so convenient almost to just say, all right, well, you know, I'm finished work, I'm really tired, I don't really want to cook something, so I would, you know, just order something from, you know, a delivery app. Since the fall, and my coaching with Dan, I've really just kind of pushed myself to not order so much from those delivery websites and apps. I've also just kind of pushed myself to get out and grocery shop. And, you know, even though it's convenient to just go on an app and, you know, you can even order from your like history, which makes it so easy, but it's also, you know, relatively expensive compared if you were just to go out and get the things yourself. So I've really cut back on those kinds of things, specifically relating to like delivery for groceries and food.
Appreciate that very much. Any other updates that you'd like to share on any of the other things you mentioned?
No, I'm just very appreciative. I've learned so much from Dan, and I'm just very thankful. Thank you, Dan.